My name is Chance Anderson, and this is the Clinton Arrow Podcast.
So, Mr. Anderson, Chance Anderson, you are quite a delight to have around in such an established facility as Attache. I can see all the trophies and the sign and everything behind you. It comes with a lot of tradition, but you're the new director here. It's still kind of a new format that's going in. Mr. Fair and Miss Fair are still around. Robert Allen's still helping a good bit. But this is your second year as the Attache choir, or the Attache show choir director. And so kind of a little bit about you. What kind of makes you stand out? What experiences stand out from your first year? And then what kind of are you looking forward to going into the second year?
The first year was just awesome. Like this place, just every aspect of this place, be it the football team or the swim team, all the way to Attache, just expect excellence from their kids, which is, what I really was expecting going into it because I coming from the outside world, but still the show choir world, we just know Attache is excellence, like excellence on stage, professionalism backstage, even in the audience, it's professionalism. So that was what I was expecting coming in and getting to learn from the fairs, from Mr. Allen, from Miss Morgan has been like incredible. Like they've been doing this for so long. They have a system, it works. And it's been a joy to learn it, but then also to be a part of the creative process. It's just like, that's where my brain loves to live, is in that process. So the first year was just, a whirlwind, but it was a great learning experience. And, we still learn every day. And that's what I'm looking forward to going into year two, is learning even more and getting to know these kids in this community even more, and just watching everybody, grow, like watching the kids grow as they learn, like, we got to work to be good.
That's
So
right.
that's what I'm looking forward to in year two.
So there's a long-standing tradition of success and expectations within the community when it comes to attaché and show choir. So tell me a little bit about your background and how those experiences have shaped you, and how those experiences translate into your current position.
Of course. Well, I got my degree, my undergrad degree from the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, already a tradition of excellence there. And, my opera performance teachers and everything just were very adamant about professionalism and why it's so important and how it gets you the job. That is, the tradition of attaché, like being excellent, not only is a thing in high school, but it's also something that these kids can take with them out of high school. Like the tradition of excellence and making that no matter what you're going to do, even if you're going to be on Broadway or you're going to be, selling cars, be the best at it, because that's where you're going to be the most successful. And, moving from college straight down to Orlando to perform at Walt Disney World, Walt Disney World is very, very structured. It is a well-oiled machine because it has to be, things have to go out at a certain time. If this show doesn't happen at this time, this show has to get pushed back or canceled. Like, everything has to be very regimented. And it's also safety concerns that are also the reason that, you know, having that super regimented mentality is what makes Disney run as smoothly as it does. Now, not everything runs smoothly. It's live theater, but the experience of getting to recover from those moments is what I am, bringing, hopefully bringing to the table, and, being able to help those kids realize, like, you're not always going to be 100% of the time, but how do you recover?
Right.
How do you recover? And then also, like, my performance ability, performing to thousands of guests a year, hundreds of thousands of guests a year, is in doing the same consistent show and making sure that each guest feels magical and sees that person or that dancer or that character. And, that is, that character, making them believe that is what I want to bring here as well, making our audience believe that they are in the world that we are creating.
Okay, so a little curveball question. I ask curveball questions on every one of these that I do. I know the answer. Again, I have an attache background. My child is an attache, so I understand the things. Clinton understands the things, but we're coming into a new generation. And some people would argue that this generation lacks work. So if you're having this idea of high expectations, of professionalisms, do you think that it's too much to ask from this generation to work as hard as they're going to have to work?
Absolutely not. Nope. they I think that Attache is one of the best outlets in our district to really show them what the payoff is for hard work, what the payoff is. And I mean, the payoff, as you can see behind me, has been immense with the work ethic that they are expected. And it's a tradition carried down, from the beginning of Attache through the fairs. And now I plan on continuing it as well.
So now I've heard through the grapevine that you've been involved in a little bit more than just Attache this year. You've got your hands and your talents in with the Ambassador Show Choir program at Clinton Junior High School, which is a fantastic program, and it's fantastic that you're being more involved with that. What sort of role have you played with them so far this year, and how has that experience, really been so far?
Definitely just going down there and, Miss Linton has an incredible program. It has always been like, whenever we think of, Clinton Attache outside of, I'm from the Birmingham area. I grew up with all the Birmingham show choirs. We always think of ambassadors as well. Like it's always been a tradition of excellence there as well. And I'm just, coming in there, doing whatever, she needs me to do to help make sure that that program is continuing their tradition of excellence. And also just like, it's always nice to have a fresh set of eyes. It's always great to have a new set of eyes coming in and looking around and, seeing things that you might miss. I miss things all the time. It's really great to have other people come in and see what's going on. But then also, like, we want kids to progress forward. So, I want them to see my face, see the fair's faces, and just know that, like, you continue to work hard, you grow in the program and you can grow up to the high school level as well, whether or not that's with Attache or with the choirs down the hallway or with band. Work hard now and you will flourish in whatever you do in high school.
So, okay, kind of going along with that same line, we talked about expectation and reputation. You're talking about work hard now, flourish after high school. Um, when it comes with this expectation and reputation, how do what the students experience? How does it really going to translate into what comes up in life after junior high and after high school?
I would definitely say that the best way that I can think that it translates, and this is just from my personal experience, I come from a military background, military family, and I just know that when when you are really working hard, your mind, you automatically go to like that place of whatever you do, be the best, and you will always be rewarded. Always, always, always. And there's like this notion in the military that like you're not allowed to have fun or anything like that. No, no, no. You're always allowed, to have fun as long as your job is done. As long as your job is done. And it was the same way at Disney as well. When you go out there on route, that is your job. When you're backstage getting ready for a show, that is your job. And you do your job well and you're always awarded. I was always rewarded no matter what it was, whether it was my COVID job, which was working at Lululemon, or when I was displaced at Disney and attractions, I worked my way up from, just, running the ride to being a coordinator in like 6 months. And, I attribute that to my, performance ability, making people believe that I know what I'm doing, even when I don't always know what I'm doing. But also like going to work and knowing that nobody's going to do the job better than me and having that confidence to know that nobody's going to do the job better than me is what these kids will be able to take into the real world with them.
Yeah, and so you're showing them a little bit, especially again, kind of coming new, fairly new into education, nowhere new into performing, but new into education. They're getting to watch you. So what would you say that you've experienced now? Again, getting to participate very much heavily in Attache and also with the ambassadors, in dealing with different age groups. I taught at the junior high for 3 years. I taught at the high school for 6 years. They're very different people. Even though I taught the same humans, they're very different. What have you experienced about your growth as a teacher in getting to deal with seventh and eighth graders versus ninth through 12th graders?
Well, ninth through 12th graders is definitely, a lot more, you can be a little bit more regimented, a little bit more on the ball. And I would say working with the seventh and eighth graders has definitely trained my patience,
That's a good
made
way
my
to put it.
patience a lot better because, they're just at a different stage in their life. And, you know, middle school, as I remember it, it was a long time ago. Middle school, as I remember it, was just, kind of fun and, not, too crazy. Once we got to high school, that's when everything got serious. But, it trains your patience is the best way I'll put it.
Certainly does. So I know that every year, all the this goes for band, this goes for our theater department, and it definitely goes for our show choir department. But all of our preparation is very, very much cards being played close to the vest. So with whatever you can divulge, what's on tap for our show choirs coming up this year? Like I said, too early to give away spoilers, but getting ready for competition and getting ready for the review. What can you tell us about that?
You know, right now we are definitely heavily focused on the review. That is just a huge staple in this community. But, what we can expect coming forward is just, a good, good feeling show, like show that's going to make you feel good. And that is always the goal, but it's also something that is going to be entertaining. And right now we're just working on that, entertainment value and making sure that we are executing the style of music that we're doing, each song, having a different style, making sure that we do that style to our absolute best. And, when it comes to the review, a lot of those songs, most of the alumni have probably done at one point or another in a review or in their own competition set. So making sure that we uphold that attache level performance. And no matter even if it's at a review or a competition.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the things that I remember from over 20 years ago. I can't believe I'm old enough to say that. Over 20 years ago was Mr. Fair always saying, "Be good now," so that the alumni can still brag that they were part of that. And the same thing goes for the ambassadors. I know that's exactly that. So speaking of the reviews and the ambassadors, so we've got November the 14th and the 15th is coming up for the ambassador review. December the 10th through the 13th is the attache review. Always special performances in the community. But let's say that you're tasked with giving a pitch to somebody who's either on the fence about coming or they've never been and this is their one chance to come. What's your pitch? How do you get them to come to the one in the fall?
I would definitely pitch that if you are looking for something to do that you will not be bored at, you will not be able to look away from the stage. You're definitely going to want to hit up the ambassador or the attache reviews. Like, the community support for not just the show choir programs, but for every program here has truly blown me away. It's more than any school that I've ever attended or any school that I've ever seen. Like, without that community support, I don't know where any of these programs would be. So, the more people and the more support that we have, even from people outside the community, it's just, it is necessary to make sure that, all of these programs we're able to continue to operate at the highest level. But also, like, I cannot think of a single review that I've been to, even before I started working here, where I was the least bit bored. Honestly, it was over and I was like, that was it? It's over? Oh, they don't have more? Oh, okay. That was fantastic. That's the best kind of show for me, is when it ends and you're like, I don't want it to end. And that is exactly what you're going to get from Clinton show choir reviews.
All right, last question, last curveball question. What have you been most impressed with? Like we mentioned earlier about the kids in this generation, they don't work hard. What have you been most impressed with this year's group? Again, comparing it to last year and comparing it to all the years of your performances. What have you been impressed about with the kids and the family members that come with them?
The kids that I get to work with on a daily basis they are truly, they have this generation's struggles, no doubt, when it comes to work ethic and things like that. But the kids that I get to work with on a daily basis are very driven. Once you tell them what they need to work on, they're going to work on it. Absolutely 100%. And they all have the support of that back home as well, and making sure, because I see them, they take their supplies home to practice all the time, and I'm sure that the parents just love that. I'm sure when they're singing at home, I'm sure it's just great. But that just means that they are actively trying to get better and want to move into those spots that they want.